Hey everybody, this is Patti Negri. Welcome to the Witching Hour. Yes, that hour of the day when the veil is thin and magic happens. And I've got some amazing magic for you today, all the way from down under. Yes, I have Fiona Horne, one of the most well-respected authors, witches, adventurers. I mean, I've just followed you my whole career and beyond. I've had you on before and just couldn't stand it, so I had you on again. I know you have a new Oracle deck out and you have like 15 books out. So welcome, Fiona. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Oh, you're so welcome. So let's start out with you are here in Los Angeles right now when we're taping, which is exciting.
Yes, yes.
Um,
I'm actually sitting in Malibu looking out at the ocean, and there's dolphins out there, and I'm celebrating with a naughty drink. For me, that's a glass of kombucha because I'm coming up on 11 years sober. But I just hit send on the manuscript to my I lost count, 16th book, I think. I don't know about you, but do you do a happy dance? You know, when
I do. I do.
Yeah.
I do. Happy dance.
I do a happy dance.
Congratulations. That is awesome.
Thank you.
I've got one and one turned in. I know how hard it is.
Oh man, it was like it's just been like, the start and finish of every day for quite a while. You know, the day of when we wrote books, and you were you put a year aside to do nothing but write a book. And these days, with our multi-dimensional lives, our multi-dimensional, I guess, careers pertaining to our spiritual life, being witchcraft, and you've got social media and all that added stuff, and then you're trying to actually write a book as well in the middle of it all, and it's a blessing to have book deals and opportunities to be published. Absolutely. I mean, I've been published since 1998 with a break in there, but 30 years published and 16 books. Bloody hell.
Yeah,
it doesn't get easier. I think it gets harder.
Yeah, that's when we are taping this just beforehand. When this airs, we'll have just spent the weekend together in New Orleans for Hex Fest. I'm sure it was fabulous if we forward ourselves ahead.
And well, I know that I mean, you and I don't have to be psychic or time travel to know that we're going to have an amazing time. And in fact, we did have an amazing time at Hex Fest, because Hex Fest has been going. I was actually a guest for the very first one, which I guess now was like, because we have to cut in the COVID times, those 2 years that shut it down. But the first one was, back in, I mean, I've been doing it. I've done 7.
Wow.
I think. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Or maybe 6, and then the COVID years break. And then now this would be the 7th. Yeah. Annual Hex Fest. So yeah, I remember when it started, it was a dream with Christian Day and his husband Brian to create a convention, I guess, that would unite magically minded people, but also really celebrate our diversity, and even bring groups of people together that are from what maybe at surface level appear to be opposing schools of esoteric thought or practice, and where we can all learn from each other and with each other. So I think Hex Fest is really unique for that reason.
Yes, I think so too, and that's my whole belief system. What it is, that's even what I've patterned my school after. After that, going, yes, that's what we want. Multi-path, working together or learning what understanding.
Yeah.
Another thing I just saw, I was just watching you on Magic.com. You look so cute. Here's Fiona. So tell us what that is, and then tell us about your new Oracle deck.
Well, Magic.com. What for anyone watching and listening? Here's an example of what it is online. It's an online shopping environment, which is, I guess, one of the biggest, most comprehensive collections of anything to do with magic and esoteric stuff in the world. And they'll deliver anywhere in the world. But they're actually based in Los Angeles and are launching this kind of HSN QVC for witches and the mystically minded. And they have a host, Lorraine Anderson, and she's the creator of an incredible series of oracle decks called Seasons of the Witch. There's one for each Sabbath. So they're about to release Mabon. They've done Samhain, and they're going to have 8 decks eventually, but she and I have the same publisher, Rockpool Publishing. But so Magic.com had Lorraine hosting this kind of, what they wanted to launch as an HSN QVC for witches and people interested in anything to do with esoterica and alternative things. And so they said, would I come on as a guest? And I did last week, and we had such a blast. Last week, at the time of you and I talking, we had such a blast. Lorraine and I just had an immediate chemistry and rapport. And, you know, I've worked professionally in TV in the entertainment industry. I did for a very long time. And I worked back in the days when, you know, there was no internet and TV was TV and it was mainstream and there wasn't all the Netflix and everything else. And if you're on TV, it was a big deal and there wasn't a lot of it compared to now. And I was struck by, you know, how you can do a home streaming show and like through an online shopping store. And it's like being on TV in the old days where it's, you know, you're doing a full on professional situation with, you know, with prompts and scripts and stuff and this and that and producers and everyone else. And just amazing what you can achieve and how you can have a reach out there now that bypasses the old school way of doing things, which is where I originally came from. But I also know that it's unusual to have that much rapport, to just meet someone, go, oh, Fiona, Lorraine, Lorraine, Fiona, and then just click.
Nice.
And that's the kind of thing that casting agents spend, you know, companies will spend a fortune on hiring casting agents to try and get people that can just get along on camera and naturally, you know, play off each other and also be authentic. And I think that was one of the things I enjoyed so much about presenting the first show with Lorraine is she really knows her stuff. She's a potion maker. She's an incredible witch. She's just a really great person, very insightful, very thoughtful, and very knowledgeable and fun. So, so we're going to do it more often. I mean, I'm nomadic. I don't know where I live. Wherever I lay my head at the end of the day is where I live right now. So I don't know how often I'll be able to do the show, but I'm definitely doing it again with her.
Oh, that's beautiful. You know, you could see, you could tell your rapport right away from it, especially, you know, when you see a lot of like that QVC type, HSN type stuff, it's like they don't have that rapport. They're trying so hard to have that rapport.
Yeah.
So yours was natural. So
we had a blast. Yeah.
So tell us about your new Oracle deck.
Dark Magick Oracle is my second Oracle deck, and I was thrilled to have the opportunity to do another one. My first one was Magic of You Oracle that came out in 2019. Dark Magick Oracle ended up being written during the period of time that was the, you know, the pandemic, so the lockdowns and all that uncertainty in the world. And it got very dark. Like it really started to sort of deal with the inconvenient emotions, you know, that those ones where, you know, you're literally sitting alone and you sort of have too much time to yourself, you know, and you're feeling really isolated. And it kind of, a lot of the themes in it reflect those times. I almost call it like a post-pandemic deck, but it's also about emerging into the light. So, you know, Dark Magick is about going into the dark, you know, and then reveal the light within. I wrote in my very first book in 1997 or 1998, there was a chapter, it has to be dark to see the stars. And so it is that concept of looking into the darkness to see the brightest light, because that's where it will shine. And that's where it has an opportunity to shine. So that's the theme of the deck. And I was really lucky to work with a wonderful artist that I found on Instagram, Jessabella, who I was looking for art, and they were doing work where it was all self-portraiture. So every image in the book is actually Jess. It's their interpretation of the masculine and feminine divine. Some of their art was already existing. And then I was actually had the opportunity to collaborate and create some images as well. And based on the themes I was hoping to explore within the deck. And so there's 36 cards. Definitely, I sort of offer that they're cards for people who are working on remnants of their inner child that are kind of injured or wounded or unresolved, and also young people in general who haven't spent a lot of time on the path of life or in the classroom of life. Like, you know, the sort of teen to late teens to young adults, and then also but people of any age who want to address some of the things that they may feel are intrinsically them, but actually aren't. It's all conditioning and experience, like being locked down, like all that uncertainty. And so I had beautiful feedback from people who love that the cards are kind of moody and dark in their visual nature, and also that the content of the cards is focused on that stuff that we feel sometimes we can't show the world. I've got to keep this private. I've got to keep up appearances, you know, and make sure I'm convenient to everyone else. Well, this is the card to take, you know, into your room and throw when you don't feel convenient and you don't want to be. You want to work out your shit and find a way to shine a light through. And that's the themes of Dark Magick Oracle.
Beautiful. So it sounds like a very personal oracle deck versus I'm out giving readings to everybody. This is like I'm working on me now for one.
It's like Magic of You Oracle was I created it to be a deck that the readers could read for themselves. And Dark Magick has very much a similar theme. There's a book that comes with it that's quite like all the Oracle decks have books that further explain the meanings of the cards. This is quite a lengthy book. I wrote quite a lot of words for it. So it's still small. It still fits in the box. Beautiful packaging, thanks to Rockpool. They always do such lovely, lovely work. The cards have beautiful gilt edges, like silver edges. It's really tactile and beautiful. But the book itself is not only the meanings of the cards, there's also a spell and ritual to go with each card, and also a daily touch, different things you could do on a daily basis. Like what tea could you drink, or what crystal could you carry, or what color clothing or item of clothing could you wear today, to sort of empower or bless your day with the lessons of the cards. So it kind of tries to not only address the sort of metaphysical aspects of life, but also the practical aspects in the advice that I offer.
Oh, that's different. That's beautiful. That is great, especially coming with spells and all that. So how did you again, for decades, you've truly been an international leader in our field of what we do, and how you've represented witches and pagans in such a positive light. How did you get started? How did you find your path?
Well, a really long time ago. I'd have to say I'm 57 now, so it would have been 40 years ago. 17, I'd say. Yeah, 17, when I was realizing that what I was drawn to, growing up in the Australian suburbs with a lot of bush and a lot of nature and a lot of land, and the New Age movement happening in the 80s, and this idea that in the natural world there was an intrinsic magic that I could experience and connect with and communicate with. And that was the beginning of that fascination with the elementals, air, earth, fire, and water, and all the aspects of that. And then also the idea that there could be a feminine principle of divinity, because I was brought up in a strict Catholic environment. And so, when you sort of looking at alternatives to that kind of upbringing, and you're in those pivotal years of the teen years, the alternative I found had a name, and it was witchcraft. And it took me a while to work that out and to get past the Hollywood stereotypes and to realize that it wasn't anything to do with Satanism, where that word has been kind of used around. It had nothing to do with anything that was Christian related, because Satan's, obviously part of the Christian framework. It's nothing to do with that. It was actually something very much older and more I was going to say intrinsic. It just felt more natural to me, and it was effortless. It was something I wanted to explore, do, experience, practice. And yet, with the misconceptions around modern witchcraft at the time, I ended up I was doing music. I was doing a lot of things. I was studying naturopathy. I thought, to be a witch, if I want to heal with herbs and crystals and all that kind of stuff metaphysically, I've got to understand what it does medicinally. So I put myself through naturopathy natural medicine school. So I was in college doing that. And it was an effort to validate what, the spiritual calling I had, was to make it, okay, well, how can I use it practically as well and understand it and legitimize it? Which I realized eventually isn't necessary, but it was a fascinating way to start exploring that world. And then I was doing music as well. So I'm kind of working at a gym, like working as a receptionist at a gym, or a fitness studio, going to natural therapies college at night and playing in bands on the weekend. And then one of the bands got really successful in Australia, and I became a big rock star. And so for 7 years I was famous, and the band toured Australia many times, came to America. We had 2 Billboard top 20 hits. MTV played us on high rotation when MTV used to play music videos,
Remember?
And it was this era where I stepped into this. The band was called Deaf Effects, and when I stepped into this world of entertainment in a really big way, my witchcraft I got very quiet with. I didn't talk about it, but my song lyrics lent. If anyone read them or paid attention to what they were, would see that there was a lot of those esoteric themes and literally witch-related themes in those songs. There was a song I wrote called The Spiral Dance, with a lyric, the wise witch wove her dreams, spinning coiled ropes of silver that wound round the trees. I was like singing about my ritual work, singing about my magical life, singing about the goddesses, there was another song, Hymn to Her, Hymn, Hymn to Her. Before, I think Chrissy Hines did a song like that, I think, in The Pretenders, but this was before then. And to me, it seemed like at the time, I'm a woman in music, a girl in rock and roll. There wasn't, a lot of us really in the 90s. There was some, we were starting to come through, and, it was like I toured with No Doubt with Gwen Stefani, and, played with Garbage, with Shirley, and my band was, we had some big things that went on, and I'd meet these other women doing high profile music that were my peers, but we all sort of said, oh, it's still really, really sexist patriarchal industry. But my practice in my personal life was, I took my witch's altar with me everywhere. I'd set it up in the hotel rooms. It was my sanity to connect with the feminine divine through my craft whilst I'm on stage performing on TV, doing all this stuff and not ever talking about it openly. And it wasn't until the band broke up in 1997 that I came out of the broom closet, as we say, and wrote my first book on witchcraft. And that was a bestseller because at the time my publisher was like, oh, a rock star writing a book about witchcraft, that'll sell a few copies. And it was huge. And it launched this career where something that had been so much a private part of my life, that was one of the ways I survived in this very male-dominated, sexist environment of rock and roll. It kept my sanity, it kept my soul like uplifted. And then now all of a sudden it's my job. And then, and I realized, and I was told this once by an elder, a high priest, that, he said, Fiona, you'll keep it secret for a while. You'll keep it to know, to will, to dare, to be silent. It'll stay in, and then one day you'll be called to teach it. And you'll have to do it, because we're all called to teach at some point. He's the high priestess who's, leading a coven and has got this, history of 30 years of practice, and I'm a newbie, but he was right. And then, when you sort of do come out in the public frontline in the late 90s, there was Charmed, there was all these shows, TV shows. It was getting really popular to be a witch, but there was still a lot of the misconceptions and stereotypes, as you know, Patti. So when you're out there just addressing it, it's amazing. It's now to look at just how, I had the 20th anniversary of my first book they re-released it. HarperCollins re-released it. I guess it was, now it was 2019, just before COVID that happened. But I had the opportunity to write a new foreword, and it was like, 20 years ago, witches were shrouded in myth, suspicion, and fear. These days, who doesn't know a proud, self-avowed witch, Yeah. And I think that's fantastic. And I think people like you and I, Phyllis Curott, Lucy Cavendish, all of us, Starhawk, my gosh, I could start ripping through the names of us that were there as and front line for all the crap, to allow it to get us to a point where it's actually people can discuss it, talk about it, not be shamed, and feel motivated, inspired, and free to forge the path of the craft as it's expressing itself now, which is, why Hexfest, that's one of the things about it, that, the event in New Orleans that you and I appeared at, and we'll, do it next year, I'm sure, is that it celebrates our differences. We're stronger when we're united in our differences.
Yeah, no, it's funny, very similar stories, because I kept mine very hidden too, because I was in a corporate, I had run a production company, but very corporate, and I'm like, these people cannot know, like, I dance around bonfires and, talk to dead people and all do this stuff until 2008 and the big corporate crash, and then somebody needed me to do a seance, and then it opened. And then being in entertainment, like you, I was a rock star, I can't even sing, but it's good, because then the whole general public gets, oh, these women aren't scary, these women are,
and then you break the sort of archetype that, like being blonde, being friendly, being approachable. Thankfully, everyone's past that now, and I think knows that. I was told, I was dismissed a lot. My own community, I used to say, I don't need Christians to burn me at the stake. My own community does it to me every day. I was up against so much flack from my own community saying that I'd, become a witch to be famous. And I'm like, actually, I was doing better in my career before I came out as a witch. I lost so much work when, especially when I went from rock and roll into television. And I moved from Australia to Los Angeles, and I had a really big agent and all this opportunity. And they were like, you're fabulous. Let's make you more fabulous, which was, incredible. But I just never got jobs because they would find out I was a witch, and they'd go and they wouldn't take me seriously. It's different now. Now it doesn't matter.
That doesn't
Now it's
matter.
against the law to discriminate against witches.
Yeah.
But back then it was hard. I did end up getting a show, Mad House, which was with Sci-Fi Channel, which was a reality show, and I was a host on it, and I was the witch. Other than that, it was, I remember going for a casting to help to co-host actually it was to host a documentary about that Jim Cameron's company was producing about his first trip to the Titanic, Mysteries of the Deep. And I didn't get it because of my, my other world. It was considered not family friendly enough. And yet I became friends with all of them and ended up working with them behind the scenes on those early Titanic documentaries when Jim was first going down in the submarines and stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, but it had to be behind the scenes. The witch thing had to be hidden. And then when I started working as a commercial pilot in a complete, about face of life's, journey, and that was in, I got into aviation. I wanted to, but I actually became a pilot, got my private certificate in 2013, and then I moved out to the Caribbean, and I did humanitarian aid out there, which you can do as a private pilot. You can donate and volunteer to fly aid missions, to do search and rescue, do animal rescue, any non-revenue generating flight you can partake of and assist in and contribute. But through all of that, I ended up becoming a commercial pilot, flying so much, doing the 2 missions to Haiti in the wake of 2016's Hurricane Matthew. And then I went, I came back to Los Angeles for a year from the Caribbean and got my commercial ratings and went back out and worked as a pilot. And I remember my first check ride with the first company, because you do all your check rides to get your ratings through the flight school and everything else, and as far as the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration's regulations are. And then you got to do a check ride for your boss when you're going to fly for a company. So I was flying on-demand charter for a Part 135 company in the Caribbean, and I got to do the company check ride. And my boss is sitting there, in the right seat. I'm flying the airplane. I get clearance to take off. I taxi out. I'm holding short the runway, and he looks at me and he goes, "So you call yourself a witch, do you?" And I'm just like, oh. I mean, I look back now and I think that was pretty radical. I'm in a critical phase of flight, about to taxi onto the runways, accelerate and take off. There, let's go. And he's asking me, "Oh, you call yourself a witch, do you?" And I'm just sitting there holding the yoke, and I had one hand on the controls, and I had one hand on the yoke, and I was like, "Yes, sir, I do." And he said, well, I think I said, "Yes, sir, I am," And he said, "Well, I don't care what you call yourself, as long as you fly the plane safely and bring us back and don't break anything." I was like, "Yes, sir." And I passed my check ride and got the job. And I went on to become the most requested captain for that airline as the time went on, But, my little joke is a plane is a lot more comfortable than a broomstick, and you can fit a few more people on it as well. Seemed like the obvious level up to me to go from broomsticks to airplanes,
I like it. If you ever get your own little private plane, put a little broom on the back by the tail. You can have.
You know what I've learned? It's like boats. Boat, BOAT, break out another 1,000. I had a boat I bought a boat in the Caribbean, and greatest day buying a boat, better day when you sell it. Honestly, same with planes. I'll just fly other people's planes. I don't want to own my own.
That's fun. You are such again, rock star, pilot, witch. 16 books, Oracle Deck. How does your practice, your belief system, your pagan, your Wiccan belief system help you to be who you want to be in this life? How has that been a big?
I think it's the attitude. I'm sure you'd agree with me. It's like the attitude we have. We kind of, as we step into this kind of world of the craft, accepting, I was going to say believing, but accepting that we can create change. The core of our craft is creative, and whether we're literally putting the hands of your spirituality or the tools of your spirituality in your own hands. And this is a very simple way of looking at it. But, when we create an altar in our own homes, when we do spells, or when we might put a series of things together in order to affect change, and we believe that we're doing something that has an effect, you realize that I think everything about the craft encourages you to take responsibility for your life and and do something about it. And it's not like a simplistic way. Maybe when I was younger, if I had a broken heart, I'd do a spell to find new love. And I wouldn't understand that the biggest spell I had to cast was actually on myself first. But I think that modern witchcraft, that information is out there now. And you can see that what I love about the craft is that it's creative, it's colorful, it doesn't shy away from the tough stuff. It has space in it. It provides a safe container, like my new Oracle deck, Dark Magick, to explore the darker, inconvenient things, but also to step out into the light and feel expansive and co-create with the universe. And I mean, look, there's lots of different ways to do that. I spent time in the early 2000 meditating with a group of Buddhists, like for weeks, and diving very deep into Buddhism, and in that short space of time. And it was tremendously rewarding, and it was an amazing opportunity to be part of a community where we were learning together and working to heal and help each other through the meditations and through the practices. I was still a witch while I was doing that, and it's just I've worked out that that's just what I am, and it permeates everything, but it doesn't limit me from learning and exploring and growing, and even when we in ritual or in ceremony or even spell casting, when we might align ourselves with energies of different gods and goddesses from different cultures and backgrounds. I mean, Christian Day, who created Hexfest, he said once, "Oh, I love witchcraft. It's a scavenger religion. We just go around and scavenge." And and then there's the whole PC, politically correct thing now of like, oh, is it cultural appropriation? Is it this and it's that? Well, we're all humans, and at a point we're all connected. And I think it's just as much of a crime to be precious about things as it is to not like allow people to learn, grow, and explore. And I was recently in Egypt, and I had a really it was like a bucket list trip for me. I spent a month there in I guess May and early June of this year, as you and I are talking, Patti, and I had such a strong calling and really visceral, tangible communications and interactions with a specific goddess that I knew nothing about, and I'd intentionally not researched or done a deep dive into anything to do with ancient Egypt. I wanted to go there as blank a slate as I could and see what happened. And this one particular goddess, she just would speak to me in English, and I'd see her in my dreams and see her everywhere I went. And I didn't try to appropriate anything there. She came to me, and because I honestly knew nothing. And in dreams and then I'd look up after that. Like one morning I was waking up at 1 a.m. and I'm hearing her in my head screaming at me, "You must know me." And it was in English, "You must know me." And I'm waking up like, what am I supposed to know? And I'm like, and I'll get my phone, I'm literally laying in bed, and I start Googling her name, and I know nothing about this in my head. And then the journey was finding out a lot of things, and she's my patron goddess now, and it's put me in a position where I'm going to be taking women into Egypt on these very much bespoke, curated experiences next year, 2024. It's like after that happened, then all of a sudden this person, that person, this offer, and all of a sudden it was like, I'm meant to do it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't scavenging. I wasn't trying to get some career move going. It just all came. And honestly, it's hard to fit in and it's hard to do, but I'm going to do it because it's a calling. I think my only mistake would be not to do it.
Yeah. No.
So this is when, as a witch, well, what does it all mean? I mean, I'm a commercial pilot. I'm an author. I'm like this practical person, and yet this was really out there. I haven't experienced something as radical as this. It was so tangible as this calling by this ancient goddess. Then since I was 17 and 18 and knew I'm a witch. That this is finally I found something that describes me that makes sense.
That's
And then my
beautiful.
patron goddess ended up being Lilith. My first patron goddess was Gaia, just because that was just it was like this sense of everything, all the elements, everything. And then I bought a statue that was the millennial guide created by Oberon and Morning Glory Zell, and there was just one in this little store in Australia that was brought over from California. And so I was kind of worshipping Gaia, the Greek goddess Gaia, and then it became Lilith, and now it's, I won't say the name of my patron goddess until it's time. I'm waiting for her to tell me.
Ask, but I knew that you weren't going to say. I've just been doing at my school a goddess series on Wednesdays. The goddess herself takes over every class. So if it's a Lilith,
and you've got to just get yourself out of the way, don't you?
It's
like you can't have. I mean, try and analyze it rationally.
You can't.
You just have to do it. You just have to do what you kind of called to do, and get out and get Fiona, get Patti out of the way, and let this stuff come through. Yeah. For whatever purpose,
It's just.
But it never feels nefarious or bad.
No,
it's not easy, and I think sometimes when you have these experiences, a lot has to be taken away before it can be added in. So, at the same time as having these remarkable experiences, I've had one of the most difficult couple of years of my life, marked by immense loss, including part of my hand, in an attack, like the murder of my dog. That's just something that I haven't even talked out loud about, except to very close friends, like the loss of a love that I thought was going to be the relationship of my life, the loss of my home, the loss of everything. I'll sit here and smile and look nice. I'll put some curls in my hair. I'll put some eyelashes on to look fresh. No, this year has been, more than this year, been marked by you just get to a point where you think, really? Okay, with all the lessons, here's another one, and it's harder than ever.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'm sober in a program coming up on 11 years now. And I think, thank God, Goddess, all the celestial beings, thank the program and everyone who's a suffering alcoholic in the program along with me. And it's like, but it's like, it's what we learn as witches. These things don't show up to show us how weak we are, but how strong we are. And, when I think of like our heritage of women and some men and children and even animals that stood in a pile of wood with flames eating at their skin, with their hands bound behind them, being burned because they were witches, because they were healers, because they were different, because they weren't convenient, because they didn't fit in, because they were in the way,
because they didn't do what they were told. Right.
We got to I'm not going down in flames.
No.
If I do, I'll rise like a phoenix from the ashes.
Exactly. No, you're not.
If that's one thing witchcraft gives you, it's that sense of, it's up to you.
Yeah, and you nailed it when you said it. Our belief system is that what we take responsibility for our life and for who we are. Somebody else isn't going to forgive us of it. Somebody, they'll help us, but the rest of the world, or so many belief systems, throw you into victim and do what I say and do what I this.
Yes.
So
yeah,
of course, everybody's going to go through hard times, and I'm so sorry about your dog and whatever happened. That would just
it's extraordinary times. I mean, I'd say it in the context because I want to offer that life happens,
mm-hmm.
and you can be a powerful witch, and you can be a wounded witch, and you can be, it doesn't stop you. It doesn't it's not like that. There's no magic spell that just makes everything perfect and easy. And that's good, because that's how we explore our power, and that's how we share and offer. I think the number one thing I've learned about being a witch is that we're healers. So, the underlying thing is, I don't count my measures of success or by what I'm accumulating with my powers. It's what it empowers me to give. Yeah. So when I share a difficult experience, I want people to know that if they're listening to me talk or thinking I'm cool because I fly airplanes and I was a rock star, and I've written 16 books, and I'm 57 and I'm healthy, and maybe even now realizing people, are starting to say to me, gosh, what's the magic spell for looking young? It's like, well, it's not. It's like sobriety, yoga every day, eating clean, but also your attitude and your head and your heart.
Yep.
And
I'm over you. Yeah.
What are the options? I don't want to life can be challenging, that's for sure. And it can also be magical and amazing. So,
and we have the tools to deal with it. That is fascinating. So before we go, I'm sure everybody's intrigued, but so tell everybody where they can find you and anything you have.
Yes, thank you.
Books, your new Oracle deck, your social media.
Yes, and my biggest thing that I'm really excited about right now is I've created a Patreon community, and I was really pushed to do this by my dear friend, witch and musician Wendy Rule, who's just an incredible woman, incredible musician, and she has a Patreon page and community. She's been doing it for a couple of years, and she'll sneak previews of her songs there, and she does messages every couple of days and all these great things. And she was saying to me, you should have a Patreon page, and it can be an environment where you can create a community. And I thought, I'm so nomadic now, and I just I love having a place that, my home is like my Patreon community. It's the people who are my subscribers, who I interact with, and they feel, as much as you have sort of like a sense of support in the world from people who are aware of your work. I call it not fans, but family, like it's like your family. Yes. But the Patreon environment allows you to be even more intimate and to share, and create specific, unique content for your communities. So my Patreon, I'm super excited about. It's patreon.com/Fiona Horne. And I do a Sunday self-care message where I do pull cards, and I do sort of talk a little bit about what I've been up to and what themes are going on, astrologically or astronomically, and then pulling the cards to get messages and inspiration for self-care. So it's called Self-Care Sundays. And then I do a spell every month. I'm reading one of my autobiography, The Naked Witch. I'm reading that live on camera, which is a trip. Oh my God, it's one thing to write that book, but, exposing all the dirt, and then reading it out loud. It's really, there it is. You can see it, The Naked Witch, my autobiography that came out in 2017. But yeah, so it's like, it's already time to write another autobiography, I think. But so Patreon, I'm really excited about it. And I'm really, if people, are intrigued or want to support me in any capacity, so I can keep, doing what I do.
Right.
Then that's a really beautiful way to do it. And I'm really grateful, and I get to get close with people, and, and there's tiers there. So it starts at $3 a month for that Self-Care Sunday message. And what I'm finding as it's continuing on is I love how people, once they're in the community, actually communicate with each other without me as well. So there really is I think what the big feedback I'm getting is from particularly women there who say it's a safe space to talk about things that they can't talk about at work, that they can't talk about to their husband, that they, and they have this safe space to contemplate their spiritual lives there, and how their interest in witchcraft and magic is impacting them. And then also they say they find it inspiring because I can give them, the dirt on how to become a pilot if they want to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously there's me there that's kind of the hub, but there's many great Patreon content creators out there, and I'm just excited to be a part of that world now. And definitely that's something that I really hope will continue growing, and I intend it to. I'm going to stay very focused on it.
That is good. Well, congratulations, everybody. Check it out. Are you still singing?
Taking a break from that right now. I did form a new band called Sea Witch that happened for 2 years, like when COVID happened, and the airline I was flying for was grounded, like everything. I couldn't work anymore. And so I went back to Australia. I was in the Caribbean, but I went back to Australia just because I wanted to be closer to family in those really uncertain times. And just, I'd lived overseas for a really long time, but, I always went back to see mum and dad, or mum and, my brother, at least every year, and then it was like, couldn't. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to go back there. And then I was in a relationship and we did music together. And that was the sad thing that had to end this year. So I had to sort of step away from all of it. And that was really an experience in self-preservation. As a woman, it was a very difficult relationship. So even as a witch, being empowered, doing all this cool stuff, I still found myself in an abusive situation that I really had to extricate myself out of. That's another story. So, but it can be done. And, you know, it just makes me even more aware of how amazing the sisterhood is out there. Other women that will rally around you and help you get out of a difficult situation before it destroys you completely. And, but I did do music with this person, and, you know, I love doing that. I was proud of it, but ultimately the belly of the beast was not going to, it had to be cut.
Well, I'm sure another musical thing will find you. I see it actually. So
Oh, okay. Thanks,
yeah.
Patti. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. And it combining, because what I'm seeing is things are combining. I mean, you can't be the singing pilot witch on your broom, but there's like bringing your magic into what you're doing. I just see it for you. I just see you might have had a hard year or two, but it's straight up from here, girl.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So, okay. So FionaHorne.com, check out her Patreon, social media. Are you big on social media?
Yeah. I mean, I've got my Instagram at Captain Fifi. And then I've got Facebook. It's you know, Fiona Horne Official. But if you go to my website, FionaHorne.com, there's links to everything there. So it's FionaHorne. It's probably up on the screen.com. But yeah, link to my Patreon, my Instagram, my Facebook, YouTube channel, Fiona Horne Rewind. It's had like 2 million views now. It's all my old appearances with the band and on TV back in the day. There's like when I was on Celebrity Survivor, when I was on How to Be a, you know, what was it? What is it? How to Be a Millionaire? Is that the show? What's it called? That there's all those shows, all those game shows. I mean, yeah,
yeah,
all those things, all those fun moments of the past.
I love it. Check it out. So any final words you want for everybody before we go?
I just let me think. Just I would offer final words for everybody. Believe in you, you know, and do that so that you can share it with others. It's not a finite journey when you connect with self-love. You love yourself and you accept yourself so that you can be more useful and a source of love in the world. So that's what I would just say. Feel good about being you and then go out and share it.
Perfect message. Thank you so much. Thank you, Fiona, for being
Thanks, Patti.